What it do, baby? It's your boy Tyrik Wynn, man. We are in the studio. We got a big-time legend in the building with us. It's the one and only Mr. Dallas Austin, man. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good to have you, man. You've been working on some big-time stuff.
You know, we got to keep it moving.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely, man. So, listen, this is, I'm so excited because we are celebrating 50 years in hip-hop. I mean, This is huge, yo.
Huge.
Like, this is awesome.
I can't believe it. When I thought about it, it's been 50 years because, you know, that's right around our age range and stuff. But, like, you know, hearing some of the first records, going to buy records at the stores, like, when I was little, I would go buy the records by the label name. So if it was like Tommy Boy or Sugar Hill, right? And so if you knew if it was like, if you bought one Tommy Boy record, if you bought Planet Rock, then you thought that the other records was going to sound like it, you know? Yeah. And then same thing with Sugar Hill. And before we even knew the acts, you would go buy the records just because they had the same label logo on them, you know. So I didn't realize it was 50 years ago that we was doing that, you know, basically. It started like Rapper's Delight, you know, and hearing that for the first time and being a part of someone who could hear those things for the first time was a trip, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And we done had some legends contribute to this industry, man. Like people have been working in this, like within hip hop. I mean, it's been awesome, man. I can say, like, I mean, shoot, I be bumping in my car when I'm on the way into the studio, man. That's awesome. So I want to talk about this. You and shout out to Jermaine Dupri.
Yep.
You and Mr. Jermaine Dupri have put together something amazing. Y'all have put together Atlanta's 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So how did y'all get the idea for this?
Well, it was, you know, everybody had their own 50th anniversary of hip hop going on at some point. And for us, it was monumental because the South was kind of the last ones to be accepted, you know, and not just Atlanta, but just the South in general. It was like, yeah, New York, when we came up, you know, New York was the base of all hip hop, period. So even in our records, you know, a lot of our influences came from New York, whether it was Pete Rock or Hank Shockley. You could hear it all, us sampling records, trying to be like Public Enemy or trying to be like New York, but then adding the Southern flavor to it is kind of what started to give us our sound because, you know, New York was, hip-hop was just New York. That's what it was. That's why it started at. So for us to be able to not only be accepted, but then if you were born in the last 10, 15 years, even maybe 20, you don't think of New York for hip-hop, you think of Atlanta. And, you know, a lot of us, you know, starting with JD and myself, you know, we kicked it off when we were like 17, 18, just like wanting to make hip hop records. And then it turned into an industry. And then it turned into us being successful enough here to open the doors for other people, start our label, So Def, Rowdy. LaFace came in town and we all started doing records for them, like the Outkast records. And it just started to grow and you started to see something that was equated to either you being in jail or dead, basically, because, you know, hip-hop was coming from the streets of here. And so, you know, when you get down to it, you had a lot of, you know, guys from the streets, whether it was selling drugs or flipping it or whatever, to get it, to then translate it into making records. And then all of a sudden you had successful artists, whether it's T.I. or Jeezy or, you know. So it's been one of those things for us to celebrate it. It meant more than just, you know, especially coming from the South.
Yeah.
The South is, you know, right down the street from where our museum is where all the civil rights took place. You know, and that wasn't a long time ago. So for us, you know, especially for me and JD being friends since we were like 17, it's funny, he made the statement on his Twitter one day. He goes, man, nobody's doing nothing for Atlanta hip-hop. I can't believe we're not seeing billboards and this and another. And I had already started to push the concept up the road. We had almost got there. And the way me and him work, we've been working together for years, but it's certain things that he's, you know, heavier in, and there's certain things that I'm heavier in. So if it's something like that, I'll push it up the court, get it mostly done, and go, okay, dude, come check this out. You know, we got this thing. Let's do this exhibit because we work together. So he's always like, yo, whatever you say, I'm in. And so when I started to, when he made the comment, I said, come check this out. I got it far enough for you to look at it. And right after that, people started calling, like, you know, Patron and you know, Georgia Crown and different distributors started to call to say, hey, how can we be a part of it? So it kind of went hand in hand at the time. And then even when JD saw it, I had to get, you know, because it was in the underground, we had a lot of work to do to make sure it was a place that people, you know, didn't think of as being underground. We wanted to make sure it was nice enough that when someone saw it, they left out of there was like, whoa, this was dope.
Yeah.
You know? And you see stuff like that in London or New York or different places, even Nashville, but you don't see it in Atlanta, you know, and it's the first time that you've really seen everybody who's contributed to hip hop records in one place. Like when you look on those walls, you're like, oh, dang, this is what happened? Like you started to be like, oh man, look how serious these dudes are. Yeah. Or like we had a name wall, and the name wall, we just kind of put it together by people we knew or thought that was in the right place. But when people came to come see it, they was like, yo, hold on, man, my name ain't on the wall, dog. My name ain't on the wall. So then it turned into a thing. And it was just a way that everybody, you know, from Edward J to Sharon Showcase to Raheem the Dream to MC Shadi, a lot of the pioneers of Atlanta hip hop, even before we started, to see them in a place where they can get, you know, their flowers at, because it would have never happened if it wasn't for that place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This experience that we created. So it's just a way for us, you know, like I said, we've been here from day one. And before it became a music city, you know, me and JD was trying to make it a music. We didn't know if we was trying to make it a music city. We were just trying to get our records done and hopefully hear them somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But it turned into what it is now. And when I look on that wall, the cool part about it is everybody on that wall knows each other and they celebrate each other and they still either hang with each other or they know each other. Atlanta has such a community.
Yeah, it's a family.
It's a family, you know, and you feel that when you look at the wall of everybody in there.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I seen y'all had like some type of party or something the other day, right?
We had the first grand opening. We're having two openings. The next one is the following Friday, but we had one last week. That was here's the opening so everybody could come and kind of see it. Yeah. And it was like probably 4 times over capacity. Wow. but it was great because the mayor's office came out and Rob Pitts from Fulton County, he came out and gave a great speech. And it was, you know, it was good to see that room was full of people who loved it. It was good to see that the mayor, everybody was just like, wow, because again, you know, we haven't seen each other, all of us in one place. And this is a smaller version of what I'm working on for downtown, because I think for Georgia, we need the same thing, not just for Atlanta and hip hop, but, you know, we just did hip hop, but when you start talking about Georgia music and you open it up from, you know, Ray Charles to James Brown to Otis Redding to Little Richard, and you start off with those and go off into all the other music that's been made in Georgia, you know, we have to have a way to, especially when you come to Atlanta, you can't see it. So, you know, we need to do better at making sure that our entertainment district is a place that people, tourists or people that come in and out of Atlanta can see what everybody's created all this time. And this is the first step in it. You know, I really like people coming in from out of town and being like, man, I was looking for Atlanta. I came in here and I found it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Yeah, it's always like, you know, get a lot of tourists that come in here, you know, they want to see something.
They want to see something, man, you know, especially when it comes to music. You know, T.I.'s done a great job having a trap museum.
For sure.
But that's the only thing we have, you know, to display the music. So this was great for us to do. It's a great time to do it because everybody else, you know, we one of the few people that can celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop and not include one person that had made records out of Atlanta, you know, or been from here or, you know, based out of here or started here or lived here or, you know, claim this as their home. And we had so many people, it was just like, wow, we didn't even realize it ourselves until we started diving into it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this, right? So looking at these past 50 years, right, you know, we got a lot of great people within the industry who have created a whole bunch of hits, right? Who do you think, like, did it the best?
Me, no. No, did it the best. I mean, you know, the thing about Atlanta is we've all done it in our different ways, you know. So, like, it's not like, you know, you didn't come here like almost like, you know, the West Coast had one sound, right? And Dre dominated that sound, and anybody had to sound like Dre to make it, you know, if he was another producer or whatever. But it still kind of was dominated by Dr. Dre as far as this is the West Coast sound. Whereas here in Atlanta, we had so many different all of us are so different from each other that everybody had different kind of hits. So I might have hits on Pink or, like, you know, doing rock pop records, and at the same time JD's doing, you know, Mariah, or he's doing a rap group, or he's doing, and then, you know, Organized Noise might have had, you know, Waterfalls, or even, you know, In Vogue, or so everybody had their different things going on. So I think that's another part of why our community stayed so cool, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody was still busy appreciating each other's art. Go, oh, dang, you did that? Oh, man, you did that? You know, it wasn't like, oh, man, you took my sound, or you tried to do my this, or tried to do my that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until people really got to Soulja Boy and user-generated content that the sound started to have an Atlanta sound. Before that, we didn't have a sound. We were just kind of like, I sounded like me, Jermaine sounded like him, Tricky Stewart would sound like him. Every producer sounded like themselves. We didn't sound like each other. And then by the time the Mac came with user-generated content and GarageBand or Logic or Fruity Loops came in and all this, it made it so that the average kid could say, okay, I want to make that too, and I can put it out too. Mm-hmm. And so that's when it started to say, okay, well, this sounds like Atlanta now. Everything sounds like this. Everything sounds the same. We went through but what's cool, what's even crazier about that is though, with things sounding the same, it goes through different phases of sounding the same. So, it was like at one point it was crunk music, and if you didn't sound like crunk music, then you wasn't considered like sounding like Atlanta, And then it went to like, the snap music, and if you wasn't snap music, then you didn't sound like Atlanta. So everybody started putting snaps in after, they started doing Laffy Taffy and Fable and them started coming out, and then it started, so it's always had its own sound in its way, but now it became more like this is an Atlanta sound because whether it's 808 Mafia or ATL Jacob or any of the producers that's been doing a lot of stuff, they started working together, so everything started kind of meshed together. And then it created a sound. But before that, it was just kind of like all of us were so different that, everybody had their own hits in different ways,
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I like what I want to know is like with you specifically, right? Obviously, you've done a lot within this industry, producing, songwriting, and stuff like that. So what is it like? How did you learn this stuff? Like, who taught you? Did you have a teacher? Are you self-taught? Like, how did you learn all this stuff?
I mean, I was self-taught in the sense that, around me, my mom and dad, nightclubs in Columbus, Georgia, and I would go play on the instruments that the band would leave up, when they performed the night before. I'd go down and mess with all the instruments. My mom was doing inventory and play on the turntables and stuff. And then as I got, it was just one of those things, man. I couldn't think about anything else. I didn't dream about anything else. I just wanted to be a producer. I remember, being 12 and telling my mom, 7, when I sent the Warner Brothers a demo from a Casio keyboard, and and just getting letterhead back, being like, "We do not accept unsolicited material." I was like, "Oh man, I made it." I was like, "What is this?" But like, it's just one of those things. It's like I have to say, it's a gift from God because it guided me the whole time. It was just like it guided me from one place to another, or from song to song, or always, just sit and listen to like records and be like, I always wanted to be a songwriter because I like songs so much. As a kid, I just loved songs. Some songs would make me cry. Some songs would make me feel good. That was just as a kid.
Yeah.
And then when I started to write them, and I started to understand, I got, a few minutes to tell a story. And I was like, man, so that's the same. I started, kind of thinking about it. I was listening to people like Prince and listening to other writers that were doing great music, and like, what do they mean by this? And so I started looking at covers and stuff early and being like, that, you can make the word blue mean 3 or 4 different things. You can, and so from that standpoint, I really dove into like songwriting, and the production kind of overshadowed it because we all started out as producers, and you started hearing like the TLCs and the Another Bad Creations or Boys the Men or whatever else we were doing at the time, but the production would kind of overshadow it just because we had so much stuff going on, samples going everywhere, beats turning around, all hip hop. But when you took all that away, it was a song in there.
Yeah.
And that's what I started to learn was my craft over time. I thought at first, well, I'm a producer, but I didn't realize that the other producers wasn't writing their songs. I thought that one person did everything because of Prince. Prince did everything, and I looked on the back of his cover, it said written, composed, arranged, performed. So I thought one person did everything, and that's how I came up. So it was really just, man, when you spending 24/7 doing something like that, and that's why I say, every kid has a gift. It depends on if your parents see it or ignore it or whatever. But whatever you love to do, probably when you're younger, is probably your gift.
Sure.
And luckily enough, I had my mom kind of see that at an early enough standpoint and kind of was able to nurture it and say, okay, well, do your thing. I'm going to back you. And that's how I really took off. By 16, I was putting out my first records.
Yeah.
And about 20, I had my first record label.
That's what's up, man. I love that.
And it was tougher back then.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I like you mentioned mom and stuff. I think our parents have played such a big part. And like our futures and what we want to do. I mean, these are the people bringing us up.
For sure, man.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, because you said she had like some type of job, and then you would go over there and play with like the instruments and stuff, and then that's how, yeah.
And then we left in Columbus, Georgia, because you know, I wanted to move to Atlanta. She was like, all right, well, give me some time to sell the restaurant, and I'll go with you. You know, so it was always having her support. My stepdad was Jimmy Nolan, so he played for James Brown, so I would go on the road with them every summer. And so I was pretty much surrounded by music. And my brother's in the marching bands, and you know that's how I ended up doing drumline.
Oh yeah.
Because my brother, he was in the marching band, and then I came in after him, and he was section leader all those years. So when I came in, I knew all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was really just surrounded by music, man, my whole life.
Yeah,
that's really
you didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice. I was thrown in it.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. This is what you was gonna do. You was meant to do this. But you know, it's just crazy how, you know, the way God works and stuff. You know, like putting like He'll surround you with this stuff, show you signs, and like then you realize, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
I say that to kids right now, like my interns or people like that that's around me, or young kids that work with us, and I'll say, yo, you got to ask yourself why you're here. All right, why are you here with me? Like, why? Don't, you know, because you don't have to be. You could have been anywhere else, but for some reason you're here. So don't not look for that reason, and don't like take advantage of why you're here. You know, God got you here for a reason. Maybe you want to, you know, be in the industry, and that's what your heart desired the most. So now here you are next to me. So ask yourself then, what do you do with that to go to the next steps and the next steps? Because, you know, you don't. I've done this plenty of times. Like even me and Jermaine, we sit now and look and say, well, damn, man, we were 16 to 17. We lived down the street from each other. I would go over his house, make beats. You know, he would come around my house, make beats on my MPC 60. And now we live around the street from each other in Sandy Springs.
Oh, nice.
You know, and so we see both our dreams come true. He went into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and it wasn't before that it was really like, you know, for people that was Burt Bacharach and, you know, really big LA, you know, over the top white pop writers, right? It was no real like, it didn't have a place for because, you know, our lines were blurred. It wasn't like we did pop or we did hip hop or we did this. We kind of just did all of it because that's what we learned from the music that we heard. So they finally started accepting us, and Jermaine went in first in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And then the next year I went in, and then he inducted me in. So, you know, for us, we've had a lot of parallels. It's been a trip for both of us, you know. And we just starting the journey now because we're adults now. So we're like, man, look at this. Look what we can do now. You know, make a museum. Let's make a museum.
Sure, yeah. And then especially like when you have that good friend dynamic, like y'all are best friends and stuff. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
It's endless, man.
Yeah.
And the way that we care about the city. We've been skating since we were young. We still skate now. We, you know, I was able to make ATL, a skating rink movie. About us skating, but it's like all of our dreams, basically, you know, and that's why I try to tell the kids here. They kind of came into a road that was already laid, so they don't see it that way. They kind of say, okay, I'm in Atlanta. I can make it here. My friends done made it. This person, that's what they do in Atlanta. You make it. So if you come out of junior high, high school, you think that that's always how it was, when it wasn't like that at all. Like, we did a lot, you know, it wasn't no way to go to your computer and load up your music or get it heard around the world. Like, you know, I have a distribution company now where you can load up your music, get it heard around the world.
Before that, you got everything.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But before that, if it wasn't LaFace being here, or you going to California or going to New York and getting into one of them offices by chance and sitting in that lobby and trying to get somebody to hear your music, it would have never got heard. You know, so it's been, you know, we're glad that we were able to open that door, and, you know, a lot of the people, mainly every artist that came out of Atlanta either crossed me or Jermaine at some point, because we were the first two to be successful and the first two to have record companies and stuff and studios. And so every artist either came through my camp or his camp, or, you know, developed at one of our camps before they became the artists they wanted to be. So now it's just like full circle moment for us. We're going into the Walk of Fame this year on the 26th.
Oh, congrats, man!
So, which is we'll take it all. We like, give us all the glory while we living. Don't wait until we out of here.
Yeah.
But it's been a trip, man. It's been a real and working really close with the city. You know, we've always been a part of the city, so the city's always worked really close with us, whether it's the mayors or each mayor or, you know, anybody in government. We had a lot of pull in the city also. So it's like, people always ask me, why you never left Atlanta? Why you didn't move out of Atlanta? I'm like, well, I'm only me here. You know what I'm saying? I go to LA, I become one of the producers. But here, I'm only me here. Jermaine's only him. You know, we have our relationships with the city, and we're able to get stuff done. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. And earlier you talked about how like you was over his house making beats and vice versa and stuff. I like that. Yeah, y'all wasn't like I mean y'all probably had a little bit of playtime, but y'all wasn't outside throwing the football every day. Y'all was inside working. That's what it's all about.
Man.
Putting in work.
We didn't even know how to do it. We was just like we're so busy putting in the work. But again, think about it as this territory was something that wasn't accepted. So we was already like looking at New York, and it's almost like the villains of the superheroes. Like you want to be with them, but then when they deny you, you just go make your own and kind of come up your own way. And then say, now look at us.
I love that. Yeah, man. And that's how it be sometimes because like, you know, I was talking about this the other day. I was like, a lot of times we wait for other people to give us opportunities when we gotta, I mean, if they not giving you the opportunity, you gotta go out and get your own.
Take it, make it.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody asked me the other day that I feel like the generation of artists and producers now, did they take advantage of those opportunities as much as we did? Do they learn more? Did they learn a lot now? Are they investing their money? Are they like doing other things? And I said, well, if you look at myself and Puff and all of us, we came from a generation where it was like, oh, well, Tommy Hilfiger, you know, they're giving us clothes to wear in our videos. They're sending us boxes of clothes. Well, we had to figure out why. Oh, because if it's on us and we wear it in the videos, it taps into our culture. It takes them to, oh, well, shoot, that's the case. Let's make our own clothes.
Yeah.
That's the case when Bacardi's coming to us for a deal. Oh, well, what about making our own alcohol? So because I think because of our parents and them not being far out of civil rights and, you know, with segregation, especially being in Atlanta, you know, when that floodgate opened up, everybody just was like, okay, how do we own everything? And that floodgate opened up. So if you look at you never thought somebody like Jay-Z or Puff back in our days, those names alone wouldn't let you be a billionaire. So, you know, coming from the streets alone wouldn't let you be a billionaire. So we've defied music has defied a lot of that and it's just changed the industries tremendously. You know, at one point, skateboarding, music, anything that wasn't the five, you know, the lawyer, the doctor, the Indian chief, it wasn't considered something your parents respected, you know, and didn't think that those things were going to be able to get you that far. So if you look at, you know, from that point to now, and you look at what all of our entertainers and everybody's done, you know, from that era that we were in, they built the billionaires. I'm not sure who'll be the billionaires coming up next, because I think that they start associating the Flash with the real, and thus the Flash was just for fun. You know, it was just like, okay, yeah, you can do all this in the videos and stuff, but really over here, you know, it's distributing alcohol. And really over here, you got a whole business you running every day, sitting at your desk yelling at, you know, the staff all day long. But that's what it takes, but I'm glad it got us to this point now where we can be celebrating, you know, 50 years of hip hop, 50 years of, you know, the success, like being friends with Puff even, or being friends with Jermaine since we were all like 17, 18, 19. We've all we kind of grew up in a different, our own college, our own high school together. So like when I started making records, Jermaine started making records, and then Puff started making records, or even Organized Noise or Tricky Stewart, or like, you know, and now we're seeing people who were interns be the chairmen of the company now, like Big John, he was interning at Sony when we were all doing this. He's running around with us, and now he's the chairman of Sony. So
elevate,
man, you know, and that's what it's about, you know, really.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. It's all about, you know, like you start in one spot, but then it's all about getting to that next point, getting to that, like you said, that chairman, that ownership.
That's right.
Yeah, man. So yeah, and I think so. When it comes to celebrating 50 years now, right? Let's look at the future, right? What do you think the next 50 years is gonna look like? What you think gonna be some changes or some similarities?
Man, I think the next 50 years is gonna be really interesting, because if you look at what the first 50 years was like, almost like the struggle years, because for half of that time people didn't respect hip hop, and it fought for its own way for a long time, and then it started eating up everybody's music, and then it started to be like, okay, well, if you don't have hip hop influenced in your music at some capacity, then you're not cool. So if you look at where it started from then till all the way up to Old Town Road even, and look how much of a drastic change that is in that 50.
Yeah.
Then think about now what's going to be accepted as hip hop from now to the next 50 years is going to be a whole nother story. Like, hip hop used to be like, okay, well, when it first started off for us, it was like, well, Well, if they taking some James Brown samples and they, start rapping over that. And then hip hop was all about how broke you were. It wasn't about how much money you had or how much money you was faking to have, and none of that. That didn't come in the Puff's phase. Before that, it was about how broke you are and the problems you're having in the projects and the problems you're having. It was like street poetry turned into music, right?
Yeah.
And so then that flipped into all those guys making a lot of money off of talking about not having money, right? So that changed into another era. And if you look at where it's going to go from now on and what hip hop will sound like through the technology and everything else, is probably going to have a drastic change for the next 50 years. If a kid is born 10 years from now, his version of hip hop and where it started from is going to be a total different thing. I see when Rich Homie Quan and the guys started down here, and they were saying, "Hey man, well, I ain't really never listened to no Biggie or Jay-Z records. I don't really know what they talking about. Like, I ain't never listened to none of those." And you have people go, "What? You don't know Biggie and Jay-Z?" But if you think about it, all the music that he idolized coming up was probably Lil Jon and everybody else that was coming from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And hip hop at one point was jazz loops. If you didn't have jazz loops, then it wasn't considered hip hop. And then at one point, if you didn't have, before the 808 became prominent, if you didn't have drum sounds that you sampled from somewhere that nobody else could find, then that's when you was really into hip hop. So it's changed drastically, and I think that over the next 50 years, it's going to turn into something that we probably wouldn't define as hip hop right now, but we'll be that then.
Yeah, it's crazy how over time things change and stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what it's looking like in the future for sure. Yeah, and excited to see what more contribution. I know you're gonna have some more contributions to the industry. So
always, man, we're looking for new acts all the time. I have that distribution. I think the next step even for that is how do artists and the fans really connect without the middle people being there. So we have first technology where you basically Apple Pay people for their songs, and they can get direct money instantly instead of having to, because now it's a little bit when they got to the point of the technology changing and the streaming, you had 160,000 records released every day. That's a lot of records. So compared to with us, it'll be like it's TLC coming out this week, is NSYNC coming out, and this person. So you probably have 4 or 5 people coming out.
Yeah.
Whereas now you got 160,000, and it's made it where music itself has it's been depleted a lot, because of that oversaturation. So it's hard to cut through. But when you find the ones that, it also makes the other ones have to be really that much more special, that much more something about it for it to cut through. And so it's gonna be interesting to see, what even in the next 10 years, like what music's gonna sound like at that point,
Yeah. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And I want you to educate me a little bit, because I'm a radio and TV guy, music industry. I mean, I know the people and who do the stuff, but I don't really know, because I know you said you have a distribution company and stuff. How does all that stuff work? And what is the I guess the steps or the chains and stuff? How does all that stuff work?
So the most prominent ones now, DistroKid, used to be TuneCore, United Masters. They all started as they call them DIYs, do-it-yourselves. So again, where you're at home, you make your music on your Ableton or on your FL Studios, whatever. So now you got a complete song, you got it all done, and so I want to put it out. So then you would come to us, Dollar Sauce and Distribution, and we have 2 different tiers. So one tier you click in and say, okay, I want to go and I want to be on TikTok, I want to be on Apple Music, Spotify. So we'll put you on over 200 digital platforms, and when you sign up, you just come in, you pay $19.99, load up whatever you want to load up, how many songs you want to load up. And then you pick your covers, you pick your dates, and then you basically set when they come out. So if you said your record, you wanted to come out October 31st, then on October 31st, your records will pop up on 200 different platforms, on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, everywhere else. And so that's how a lot of the artists has been able to, when you look at how many artists come out, it's because of that. It's because they can go up and load up their own music and put it out everywhere. And then some art. Now, the problem with that is that you're thrown into an ocean. So that's when you have to figure out, how am I going to market this? How am I going to promote it? Am I going to take out ads? Am I going to run Google ads? Am I going to take out Snipe? So it becomes, it put everything into the hand of the artist, but that means everything. And some things, when they're left in the hands of the label, of course, you got marketing and promotions and stuff that comes from there. So you have way more artists that distribute and that come out than that make it successfully. But now artists are able to get themselves out without making it to LA or going to New York or sitting in the office. You can just load up and put your songs out. It's been great for us because I'm in the music. I come from music first.
Yeah.
So I like to find artists. I like to still look on my backside and be like, man, who's cool? Who's loaded up today? What kind of music? We distribute music from around the world, and we distribute it around the world. So we have everything from Afrobeat music to Korean music to Cuban music to children's books to
oh God, okay.
It's full on.
Oh, everything, man.
Yeah, I love it because for me, it's like a big scope of all kinds of creativity, and I love giving people the shot to get their stuff out. And one thing about us is we really take pride in kind of helping people out where a lot of other companies are so big that you can't get in touch with anybody for anything. So even if you are spending your own $100,000 or you're moving, 20 albums over, you need to be able to talk to somebody and say, hey, we need some help with this. So we do that with our clients. We have labels, we have individual production companies, we have individual artists. If you know what to ask, we know what to tell you. If you don't, then you're fine anyway, loading up at home and making sure your stuff comes out everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been the and I think the next step from that standpoint again is artists direct to fans. Because between Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal, and those platforms, it was a good bridge, a good Band-Aid for the moment. But now it's gonna, it's time to make sure people get paid more.
Mm-hmm, for sure, man. And I was listening to you explain that. I mean, you just made it sound so easy. Like, don't make me mess around and come out with my own record. You know what I'm saying? No,
man.
Don't make me mess around and tap in the industry.
You know what's crazy is people don't realize that the instrumental records stream more than anything.
Really?
Yeah, you probably don't even realize it when you playing it or listening to it at a restaurant or something, and it's just like cool lo-fi beats and music playing instrumentals. They stream more than anything.
Wow.
Yep.
Man, don't make me mess around and tap in, man. God, no.
Podcast, whatever you need. Podcast too.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Yeah, and I appreciate you explaining that and breaking that down, not only for me but for the audience too, because I know, a lot of people had questions about that and stuff. So yeah, I appreciate you breaking that down.
You take it even for your podcast. I have my podcast, Mind Over Music, and the difference is if I put it up on my YouTube page, then I'm gonna have to run ads and pay somebody to go look at it, right? Because how they gonna find it? Well, and I think that's the shift that's happening right now. It's a big shift happening and people going, okay, well, dang, YouTube, I remember when YouTube was the it, now TikTok is taking that spot and Reels and Shorts because they're going, well, hey, hold on. If I put my video up on YouTube or my podcast up on YouTube, then it could sit at nobody seeing it or 5 people might see it, and it could sit there for a month or two with it just being there if I don't promote or market it some kind of way. But if I think about it, if I'm looking at my Reels all day and my Instagram all day, right? Let's say Gary Vee comes by and he says something on his, I'm not going to go back and watch his whole YouTube. I don't need to. Whatever he said for that minute is what I watched, and I got my point out of it, right?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, and as soon as you start scrolling, people are looking. You're not paying for that yet. They're just like going, okay, so you can get 4,000, 5,000 people looking at something of yours, like a podcast or something, without paying for it that way. And with ours, for Mind Over Music, I can say, okay, well, I want $1 for 15 minutes of my podcast, right? So one of them is an hour. You can watch that wherever, but the real minute sound bites, the real informational ones, I want $1 for it. So when I put them out there, they just hit Apple Pay and it sends me $1 straight from the link they got.
Wow,
So
okay.
it's a way to get, if I wanted $10, if I wanted $1,000, I could charge whatever I want for it. And I think that's the new key is it's for creatives to break the blanket license and charge what they want for their content.
Sure. Yeah.
And that way you can get paid. I mean, you can have 100 fans and be still fine. Right now it takes you 250 streams to get $1.
Yeah.
And so that's the issue. But 250 people heard me and I ain't get nothing. So I at least want a nickel, a dime, or maybe $1 for it.
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
man. And that's great. You mentioned that you was talking about TikTok and Instagram Reels and stuff like that. I love it because you don't really need that many followers to go viral. You don't. You can have one follower and you put out a hit video or something that's controversial that got people talking. Your views is up.
Up. And I tell artists these days because they're going, okay, if regular artist is going, hey man, so we're gonna do this. I need to shoot my video. I need to shoot. I said, well, even if you shoot a video, say if you pay even $5,000 or $1,500 for it, where are you putting it? Who cares? Like you can shoot a video for $250,000 right now. Like even though somebody as big as Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion with the Bongo record, like okay, this is gonna be dope. That's a dope record, dope video. You might watch it once if you watch it once.
Yeah.
But because of MTV not living that way no more, and places not living where they just run videos, that's not the norm for the kids to look at it that way. People look at it that way, so they got about a minute, if that. You got about a minute to show them whatever you want to show anybody, if that. Usually 30 seconds, but if you got something that's gonna catch their eye, they got about a minute to show it to you. That's dope. I'm on to the next.
Yeah.
So it's a different world now, and it's a different content world, and it's people are their own subscribers at this point. You're your own television station all the time.
Pretty much.
It is. I mean,
yeah.
Started with you saying, hey, if I cook every day, if I turn my camera on and show everybody I cook every day, then I can get subscribers, then they stay, So Isaac Hayes said this the best. He said, man, broadcasting is what the old world did, because broadcasting is how broad can you cast everything, right? Microcasting is what's going on now. So, hey, guys, this is Dallas. Watch me on my da-da-da, hey, guys, I'm tumbling today or whatever it is. You got subscribers. You got millions of people watching this one person who's doing whatever they do every day. And people don't really look at it that way, but except for the YouTubers that I know that goes, man, I made $1 million this year off my YouTube. They look at it that way because they understand that that's their television station. But really, the world has gone into micro subscription. Like everything, when you got a subscribe button on your Instagram page for you yourself, you're going, why would I have that? Because they know that, hey, you're basically a station, and anytime you want people to subscribe to you, we already know that game. So like, just turn your button on, and decide how you want your subscription, and whether it's that or OnlyFans or anything else, that's the real world. It's the same thing as you paying for HBO and Netflix. It's the same subscription. Same
thing, yeah. Hey, listen, go out here, make this money.
This is money, man.
Hey, get it, man. That's what it's all about, man. This was this is fantastic. Really appreciate this probably one of the best conversations I done had, man.
So thank you, man.
This is awesome. I appreciate your time, man. The education was great. Everybody was able to learn a lot. Before we go, I do want to share this with you. I remember the first time I was introduced to you. I was watching The Housewives. And I seen you working with Kim Zolciak.
I was talking about this yesterday.
And I was like, and it was that scene was hilarious to me. I mean, the way when she started singing and the way you was looking, that was funny.
The things you do for your buddies. Like that.
Yeah, man. So what was it like being on reality TV?
It was, it's one of those things where I've done them a few times, but it's just an invasion of your life, just to be a point where it's TV. So then people, I'll be in London and somebody be like, man, you know what? You recorded Kim Zolciak, you could record me. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that's what my claim to fame has become at this point. But yeah, man, it was just TV. And at that time, all those things had just started, and all the housewives had just started, and they were kind of going around Atlanta and kind of trying to get different people to, be involved and all this kind of stuff. So it was not as saturated as it is now when it comes to reality TV. People are more used to it now, whereas back then they weren't really used to it. It's way more interesting at that point. But yeah, that became my thing for a minute. It was like, hey, you produced the house. You was on the Housewives. You produced the Housewives. I did all this stuff in my life, and y'all gonna tell me about this girl right here.
Housewives. Yeah. Hey.
Nice to meet the 20 million people. You know what I'm saying? Nice to meet
sure.
you, Bravo, having that big of an audience. But yeah, man, it was. If you look at how that shows, even especially for Candy, even because
she was here the other day. I was talking to her.
Yeah, she's another one that was writing with me a long time ago, and we've been working together for a long time. But you never know what's around that corner, because you would have never thought Candy that we knew from being in the studio with us and Escape and writing songs with me and stuff like that would be the Candy that's exposed to the world like this now from the television show.
It's worldwide.
Worldwide, changed her life drastically, and it's done a lot for their businesses and all kind of stuff. So yeah, you never know what's around that corner.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That's fantastic. Well, like I said, I appreciate you so much for your time, man. I appreciate you coming on, man, and tell everybody where they can come to the exhibition and stuff and check everything out.
If you're in Atlanta, come and check us out. It's 65 Upper Alabama Street. It's underground Atlanta, but it's the upper ground underground Atlanta. We wanted to put it somewhere we felt like still was, You know, still had some grit and some cool to it for the hip hop. You know, but yeah, come check us out. It's a bar, it's a lounge, so we do events in there. If you want to have events in there, let us know also. But it's a great space. It has a theater in it. Has all of our old drum machines and stuff like that in it. We put everything on wheels so we can roll it out when we do concerts. But yeah, so it's a dope space. Check us out at 50th Anniversary of Hip Hop online, 50thanniversaryatl.com. And yeah, come check us out. And also check out Dad Distro. If you want to distribute your music, Dad Distro is where it's at.
And that's what your shirt and hat.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yep, man. I see y'all so.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I like the brand, how you got the D and stuff like that. That's creative.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. And people can get tickets on the website too. They need tickets
on the website
right?
also,
Okay.
and also on Fever.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And then your social media.
No, my social media is Dallas Austin's on Instagram. So come check me out. Check out my Mind Over Music podcast in case you want any kind of music insights or know any more about the music business or industry and how to function. Check that out too. And you need me back on iHeart, I'll be here anytime you want me, bro.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's awesome. I greatly appreciate that. Guys, appreciate y'all so much for listening, man. We chilling with the one and only Mr. Dallas Austin, coming in here educating us about the 50 years of hip-hop, man. This is awesome. This is fantastic. A man who has contributed so much to this industry. So we appreciate y'all so much for listening. Catch y'all next time. That was fantastic.
Man, I was having a ball over here.